Hi, everyone. It's an honor to talk about Steve today. I always had the highest regard and appreciation for the work that we did together and for my time as Steve's friend. The dramatic decline of his health since his heart issues last December was both shocking and sad, and I can't believe it happened so quickly. We all have our memories of Steve that make us smile. We know his quirks, and we know those special things that make us so fond of him. I got to know Steve when I came to St. Michael's University School after they had moved to Toronto. Their boys were students at our school from which they graduated. I'm happy to say that although they weren't angels, they were boys after all. They never darkened my door for any reason. Steve loved to watch his boys progress. He loved his family more than anything else. Steve was no stranger to independent schools. He himself went to boarding school in Ontario, to Trinity College, where he formed some lifelong friendships, some of whom may be watching today. What is less known is that Steve's grandfather lived in Victoria and for a few years was a board member at our school. A few years after I arrived at SMUS, Steve also became on the board. I think he was surprised a few years later when he was asked to be board chair, but he came to it naturally. He served as board chair for 7 years, a tenure which is long and which profoundly strengthened the place. His successors as board chair have followed in his footsteps, serving a stabilizing long tenure like he did. During his time as board chair, I definitely saw more of Steve than I saw of his boys. And I think Penny, too, at times felt that Steve saw more of me than of her. He was a remarkably steadfast and committed board chair, carried out his duties in an exemplary way. For him, being board chair was not an ego trip. He always put the school first. He was straightforward, positive, and supportive of everyone's efforts. On the personal side of that work, he was very attentive toward me, taking as much interest in my welfare as the school's. He earned considerable respect and affection from the staff. He focused on strategy, most visibly fundraising and new facilities. During Steve's time as board chair, the school constructed over $25 million worth of new facilities, almost all of it fundraised. It was a transformational time involving a lot of people, and it couldn't have happened without Steve as board chair. It was complicated. There were obstacles. There were difficult people and crises and so on. But Steve operated without ego and would sacrifice his own pride to advance a greater purpose. He acted always with uncommon decency in his decision-making. He never tried to make himself more important, and he never played favorites. He never took credit for successes, and in fact, it took quite an effort to make him receive the credit that he so thoroughly deserved. We became good friends. As a friend, he was positive and supportive in the same way he was at the school. I enjoyed our times together and appreciated his wide range of very different friends. Dinner with Steve and Penny was always full of plenty of laughter and good conversation. He loved good food, good wine, and he could cook a lot of things well, especially salmon. If either of us discovered, bought, or were gifted a bottle of special wine, we would often save it until we had an opportunity to share it. Discussing such wine with Steve, if you were ever present for it, always involve flights of bad poetry and lots of laughter. But that is the nature of such times. We will miss him. We will miss his genuine friendliness and his exemplary willingness to give up time and effort to worthwhile institutions and causes, whether it's the school, the church, or his boys' Little League baseball. Penny and boys, Steve will be well remembered.